what they did in 2021, where they made critical race theory sound worse than smallpox. And it wasn't being taught in any...
Let's get right...
Good. Back to a game where people actually play what's currently going on and not just playing the same old shit over and over again. I guess technically it's the same old shit because it's old WoW, but whatever.
Well, howdy there, Internet people. It's Bo again. So today we are going to talk about being careful what you wish for, what you ask for, how you can't always get what you want, and how, well, sometimes you do. Okay, so Trump's legal team, they wanted a special master, and they got a special master. They also wanted a specific judge. Based on reporting, they wanted that judge because they believed the judge would be a little bit more skeptical of the feds because the judge was on the FISA court for 7 years. They got that judge. That's Judge Deary. Trump legal team is getting everything they want. And now we find out what Judge Deary wants. The special master wants this done pretty quickly. It's almost like spending a lot of time on a FISA court looking over stuff related to national security means that you might understand that time is of the essence in some of these cases. The judge also wants to know specifics about Trump's declassification efforts. Those specifics, well, the Trump legal team doesn't want to talk about that, which probably makes sense. Their position is that they want to save that in the event of an indictment. That's a unique position to take. The whole point of the special master would be to sort out things that were privileged. Now, without any kind of evidence or even statement that certain documents were declassified, there is literally no way for privilege to apply. So those would automatically go to the feds. But if they were to say all of them were declassified, and the process for doing that was less than verifiable, that would look really bad. It would also look really bad politically. It would look really bad in the eyes of the court if there was no way to prove that this declassification took place. It would also look really bad in the eyes of the public if he declassified all of them and there was incredibly sensitive information that might be compartmented in this stack of information that he declassified. That would also be really bad. Trump's statements on social media do not match the filings that his legal team is putting in.
Of course they don't. He's going to lie through his fucking teeth.
Those two statements, those two sets of arguments are going to collide.
He's a con man, and I have nothing against the people who believe him.
It is going to be a train.
They have been lied to.
I cannot think of a way for the special master, even if he's incredibly sympathetic to Trump, I don't know of a way in which he could take documents that are stamped, that bear classification markings, and say that they are privileged and that the government can't use them without some kind of specifics, some kind of argument suggesting that they're A, no longer government property, and B, aren't relevant or are somehow privileged. It's worth noting that the whole declassification thing doesn't actually matter. We've talked about it before in other videos, but just to be clear, these laws hinge on national defense information. It doesn't have to be classified. So I'm not really sure why this statement was made, and why they're following, kind of hinting to it at least, in court filings. To this point, there hasn't been a real claim that Trump declassified anything in the court filings. They've hinted to it, but they haven't actually said it. And that puts the special master in a unique situation because he can't withhold documents from the government based on, well, those are mine now. Put it into any other context. You know, if it was one of us commoners, let's say the cops get a warrant for your house and they believe that you knocked over a bank. And when they search the house, they find a bag of money. And that bag of money is stuffed in envelopes from that bank, and the serial numbers match the money that was taken from the bank. And you say, no, you can't use that as evidence. That's my money. I got it legally. But then won't tell them how. Now, for us commoners, this is the point where the feds are like, hey, do me a favor, turn around, put your hands on the wall. And the conversation's kind of over at that point.
Yep.
But this is kind of what Trump legal team is trying to say. We're not going to say that we declassified these documents and then therefore have to make another argument about why they're privileged. But we're also not okay with the government using them. It's
not how it works.
Schrodinger's defense, I guess.
Schrodinger's defense.
I don't think that Judge Deary's going to go for this. I could be wrong, but it seems incredibly unlikely that the judge is going to be willing to just be like, okay, sure, you don't want them to use these documents for reasons. That's fine with me. That seems really unlikely.
They're going to take that to the
either
fucking, it's got to go higher from the courts.
The feds are going to get the documents immediately, or the Trump legal team is going to have to provide some kind of specifics and argument to filter out those documents, at least for some period of time. Again, I would point out that at the end of this, as far as the laws are concerned, it doesn't matter if they're classified. This is all about a delay. But when you look at the timeline from Deary, it doesn't seem like Deary wants there to be a delay. Seems like he may not want to be doing this throughout the holidays and wants to wrap it up before then. But
could you blame him?
Anyway, it's just a thought. Y'all have a good day.
This just in. Former President Donald Trump has been asking advisors if he could somehow reassume the presidency this year, despite losing the election to now President Joe Biden. A well-placed source familiar with the conversation.
God damn it. He's insane.
That Trump has been hearing the
People
same
believe this shit.
Suggestions from conservative commentators and allies, and has then, internalized that and gone to ask others, quote, what do you think of this? What do you think of this theory? So Jim Acosta's out front. Jim, it's just really, I know it's like la la land, but this is bizarre that we're even having this conversation. How seriously is Trump believing this insane theory?
It's insane. It's very disturbing, Aaron, but he believes it. He thinks that there's some chance that he could somehow be reinstated as president somehow this year. And what he's been doing over the last several weeks is reaching out to advisors, reaching out to allies, and they've basically been trying to talk him off the ledge, Aaron. What Trump has been asking I'm told by one source, one well-placed source familiar with these conversations, he's been asking, what do you think of this theory? And what this one advisor told me is that he's been told it's not true. Now, this advisor who is familiar with these conversations went on to say that it doesn't appear that Trump really believes that he could somehow be reinstated or assume the presidency later on this year. But this source went on to say, listen, Trump is listening to all kinds of things these days, and he is trying to grasp at straws to see if there's some way that he can get back into the White House. And this source went on to describe these conversations as, quote, very dangerous. And so, Aaron, it does seem that the former president is not letting this lie. He is reaching out to people, and people at this point are trying to talk him back into the real world, which is, of course, where he has not been residing lately because he has been believing and investing in these far-fetched ideas.
Well, you also, I know, have been, looking into what's the driver of him believing in this, right? I mean, it's a very specific echo chamber. And one of the people who's been making these arguments is the CEO of MyPillow, Mike Lindell, who I know is, kind of now become some sort of a confidant to the former president. That he's been out there with saying he's got all this proof of mass election fraud, which of course is false. Here's part of what we heard, all of us, when he actually talked about this with Jimmy Kimmel recently.
Let's be honest, your website doesn't even really work so well. Why would you think that you have broken this code of all people?
It wasn't me that broke it. They brought it to me.
But these people are not...
The only reason they did, Jimmy, is because I have the voice. Knowing what I have now, if they would have put Donald Trump back in on December 14th, and knowing what I had right now, I would still be sounding the alarm going, you guys, these machines, they were hacked, and we have to do something in our country.
God, Mike Lindell's fucking insane, too.
So, Jim, what happened after that interview?
The machines were hacked, as I already proved. You all went in there and fucking fucked with them.
After the interview with Jimmy Kimmel, Donald Trump reached out to Mike Lindell and told him what a great job he did on Jimmy Kimmel. Lindell went on to say that they haven't spoken about this outlandish conspiracy theories that somehow Trump could be, reinstated as president of the United States. But Aaron, there is such a huge danger in all of this, because this is the same kind of crazy talk that provoked the January 6th insurrection. And so as long as Donald Trump is talking about this, he's got a speech this weekend down in North Carolina, as long as he's talking about this, I think there is the potential for more violence, election-related, conspiracy theory-related violence in this country. Trump is still stoking this.
The fuck, that respawned? Or did I miss something on it?
Telling me earlier today, there are advisors around him trying to talk him out of thinking like this, because it is just so damn crazy, Aaron.
All right, Jim, thank you very much. And I want to go now to the acting Pennsylvania Secretary of State, Veronica DeGraffenreid. And Secretary, look, you're dealing with some of this in your own state, right? There are some Republicans who are trying to follow the lines of Arizona, have some sort of a sham audit. Let me give you a chance first to react to what Jim Acosta is reporting. The former President Trump is having these conversations with advisors about whether he could be reinstated as president this year, conversations that a source who's having them with the president described to Jim as dangerous.
Right. So, yes, I didn't quite hear everything that Jim said, but I can tell you that in Pennsylvania for the 2020 general election, our counties, and I trust our counties, they had two audits of the 2020 general election. And we know that the election last year in Pennsylvania was absolutely fair. It was safe. It was accurate.
So, the Washington Post is talking about the MyPillow CEO. They're reporting that he's just one of the people who has Trump's ear and has been fueling Trump's push for audits in Arizona and elsewhere, including your state. The Post says the list of other people who are now, talking to the former president, One American News host Christina Bobb, who's been covering the Arizona audit, and Pennsylvania Republican State Senator Doug Mastriano in your own state, which basically means that Trump is hearing this sort of thing. Listen to this.
We're in a race against time, everyone. We need this election pulled down. We need our great president, Donald Trump, back in, and that's coming.
It's becoming glaringly apparent that Donald Trump absolutely crushed Joe Biden in the election. The American people resoundingly choose Donald J. Trump,
God
and Democrats
damn,
are
these people are
trying to steal it.
insane.
Half of the nation believes that this election was stolen from President Trump, and I agree with that, and that's a fact. I believe he won the state, and we're going to prove it.
All right, this is all totally false. This is totally false. It's incredible that it's actually going out there. It's incredible, I think, that in at least some of those cases we just heard, the people saying it believe it. Secretary, what are you doing to fight back against baseless claims like this?
So, I mean, the fact is that the
Should start putting these
2020
fuckers in
general
jail.
election is over. I mean, I believe strongly, certainly, that our county election officials, the administration, and most of the members of the General Assembly, in fact, both Republican and Democrats, know that the 2020 general election, certainly for purposes of Pennsylvania, we're done. That election has been certified. Candidates are serving. We are moving on. We're absolutely focused on
They're a bunch of sore
advancing
fucking loser, crybaby, entitled
rights,
children.
expanding opportunities for people to vote here in Pennsylvania. And that is absolutely going to be our focus going forward.
Well, I think it's really important that you point out Republicans as well, because, you know, I've talked to Republicans in your state, some of whom have received death threats, right? But they are completely on the page with you, right? There was a winner, and it's been checked and double-checked and triple-checked, and everybody knows that winner was Joe Biden in your state. And Republicans know that and respect that as well, but not all of them. And I mentioned State Senator Mastriano because he just went to Arizona to observe this audit, which I put in air quotes because they've already had multiple audits.
Yeah, they've audited it and audited it and audited it and audited it.
Real audit. But he's saying in your state, go ahead, let's have a similar audit, pick a few counties and put people's minds at rest, is his quote. What do you say to him when he tries to kind of go, well, I just pick a few counties? How unreasonable is that?
Well, I will say to all citizens of Pennsylvania, quite frankly, again, our counties have moved on. The ballots from the election have been put away. And so, as a matter of fact, counties just had an election on May 18th here in Pennsylvania. So we have placed the 2020 election behind us for purposes of certification. And we are working on administering, future elections, the one that we just had on May 18th and the one in future elections to come.
All right, well, Secretary de Graffenried, I appreciate your time. Thank you.
People are fucking insane. People like this are the reason why not everybody should have the right to vote. I'm sorry, are you insane? Yeah, you're not allowed to vote. No, we just allow everybody to. Do you have the critical thinking skills of a fucking 5-year-old? Fuck you doing? God, I wish that would update appropriately like it's supposed to.
Yeah, sure, let's watch it. Why 25% of workers just quit their job. Here we go.
Does anybody want to work anymore?
It seems like quiet quitting is everywhere.
Now they're saying half of people are thinking about quiet quitting.
Late night emails?
What's quiet quitting? Just not showing up? Oh, just dipping out? Oh, I thought that was a,
That's
yeah,
not quiet
that's what I
quitting.
did.
For those.
Quiet quitting is a really bad idea.
What's a big... No, it's not. No, it's not. You just don't tell the next employer where you worked at. It's that simple. Yeah, you don't tell them. Now, if you have a good job,
That guy
you
died,
got a legit
moron.
job, and you know they care about you, everything like that, and you know you're treated the right way, then yeah, of course you should give them a 2-week notice. I think that's fair, right? Sure. But if you work in a Taco Bell and you think to yourself, man, fuck this taco shit, and you just don't show up the next day, it's not that bad of an idea.
Hey guys, it's Graham here. So first we had the Great Resignation, where 40% of employees voluntarily left their jobs. Then we have the Great Regret, where 72% of those workers felt misled about their new roles, and now...
Well, they felt bad about leaving their job because a lot of people probably quit because they had a bunch of COVID relief benefits, and then the benefits went away. So yeah, they're like, well, this is fucking great. Uncle Sam is just gonna foot the bill, and I'm gonna jack off all day. And then Uncle Sam cuts them off, and they say, fuck.
It's not all what happened, dumbass.
Son of a bitch.
We have a topic that's beginning to gain a lot of
Why are you still
popularity.
wearing this shit at level 64?
This
A
is
lot
a
of it's
movement where employees are pushing
nowhere
back
near as
against
good
the
as you
idea
did.
of going above and beyond, taking on extra work, and participating in the hustle culture of doing anything more than the bare minimum. It's already having...
I've always had the mindset, whenever somebody pays me for a job, they're not paying me to do that job, they're just paying for my time. So like whenever I worked for the government, if they wanted me to do security, I would do security. If they want me to, you know, process documents, I'll process documents. I'll do whatever you want me to do. You know, you gave me fucking, it was like $13 an hour. I will do the activity that you require.
Serious implications throughout our economy. For example, U.S. productivity just posted its biggest annual drop ever. 1 in 4 workers have already quietly quit, and the term is only getting more popular.
Well, the thing is, like, hustle culture and stuff like that. You know what the people that are doing hustle culture are? These are the guys that have, you know, these like really nice fucking penthouses, and they're talking about how, you know, you've got to rise and grind every fucking day, talking about how they wake up at 4:30 in the morning and take cold showers, and, you know, they only eat some sort of fucking like space food and shit. Like, nobody wants to deal with this shit. Nobody wants to do this. Nobody wants to be hustling whenever
God,
they're
you
working
need to replace
at
so much of that
Walmart.
shit.
They just want to be able to
But
work
it
at
looks
Walmart,
cool.
get paid, and get on with their life. It's like a cosmetic job. Like, I don't... Let's cut the pretense. I'm here for the money. You need me to do the things. I do the things, you give me the money. It's that simple. All right.
TikToks, articles, and blogs racking up millions and millions of views. So let's talk about exactly what's going on, the reason so many people are quietly quitting their jobs, why this is a serious concern, with the search term layoffs having just recently increased in popularity, and then most importantly, what you could do about this to make you money. Although before we start, it would mean a lot to me if you quietly smash the like button for the YouTube algorithm and subscribe if you haven't done that already. Doing that helps out tremendously, and as a thank you, I will do my best to respond to as many comments as I can. So thank you guys so much, and also big thank you to Public.com for sponsoring this video, but more on that later. Alright, so to start, even
I'm
though
silenced.
the
I was
term
like, what the
quiet
fuck?
quitting has existed for well over a decade, its recent trajectory is all thanks to a viral TikTok, which summarized that even
So
though
I was like a trendsetter whenever I did this. I was a trendsetter. Holy shit! Yeah, same, bro. We started this. We started this, man. We walked so they could run.
Though you're not outright quitting your job, you're quitting the idea of going above and beyond. You're still performing your duties,
Good, don't
but
go
you're
above
no
and beyond.
longer
Do what you're paid
subscribing
for,
to
and
the
that's
hustle
fucking
culture
it.
mentality that work has to be your life and that your worth is not defined by your productive output.
So they all watch. Bro, where is it?
Fuck your job. Do only what you are paid to do. You are not slave. Tell your boss to take their after hours emails and shove it up their ass.
Boom.
You have a life.
There
so
it is.
live it.
I've watched this video like 30 times, probably 20 of them on stream. It never gets old. So yeah, these guys saw the video, apparently. This guy, this man right here is responsible for destroying the United States economy. Thank you.
From that point on, the concept of quiet quitting and doing exactly as expected has taken on a life of its own, and also garnering a lot of criticism from employers who feel like their workers are no longer engaged and employees who feel like they're overworked for the bare minimum pay. But in terms of...
I think the reason why people are going to do that is because they're not getting paid enough or treated properly. I think that if you treat the workers properly and, you know, you give them a good amount of money, they're going to go above and beyond on their own. And is everybody going to do that? No. And that's why you sometimes need to get new people, etc. But like, just give people what they treat people like people, and they're going to treat your job like a job, right? It's that simple. Minimum wage deserves minimum effort.
Quiet quitting, I have to say, this is what I found most surprising, and most likely it applies to all of you watching. Okay. Even though most people have the standard 9-to-5 schedule,
Go fuck with that thing. Go fuck with it.
In an 8-hour day,
Leave me alone.
the average worker is only productive for 2 hours and
Am I watching Office Space?
53 minutes. In fact, a study of 2,000
I'm gonna die because it can't be fucking slowed.
Workers spend more time reading news, checking social media, discussing non-work related things with coworkers, and searching for new jobs.
Can't be slowed, and I have terrible defense skill, Joy.
I talked to you. Remember how I
Cross
told
mage,
you
don't get
guys
hit.
how whenever you're actually spending an hour on something, it's not really an hour? And like all the little things that eat up your time? Yeah.
Actual work.
Damn,
and for those
would
who
like to
work
have
from
those
home,
boots
this
too.
is fantastic because in theory you should be able to complete an entire day's worth of tasks in a fraction of the time while being able to work without having an
Yeah,
angry
that wouldn't
boss
help
looking
me.
over your shoulder. But for everyone else, it's not looking good and employee productivity is suffering. This also plays into the aspect of what's known as Parkinson's Law, which suggests that your work expands so as to fill the time available for its completion. Or more simply put, the longer you have to get something done, the longer you will take to complete it. That's why...
So that graph explains my entire school career. So if you give me a project that's due in 6 months, I'll be doing it the day before I have to turn it in. If you give me a project that's done, that needs to be done in 1 month, I'll be doing it the night before it needs to be turned in. If you give me a project that's due tomorrow, I'll be doing it that night.
In my opinion, the standard 9-to-5 Monday through Friday schedule is broken. It doesn't allow for a blanket amount of tasks to be completed. And if you have the option to leave as soon as your work was done, almost every study shows that you would work so efficiently to get it done within hours just so that you could have the rest of the day to do with whatever you want. Although even
we did that even whenever we worked at the building. Like, I would try to get the work done really fast so I could just fuck around all day. Because, like, basically, we had paperwork, and there was a giant box of paperwork. And if there's no more items in the box, then we don't have to do anything. So get these out of the way as fast as possible. Let's get the cakes out. We're going to watch TV. Fuck it. And I remember, like, one time, it was one of the best days ever, right? So, like, I was able to, I was able to get overtime, and we only had, because they would only do overtime in like one block of 4 hours. So I got a 4-hour block of overtime, and I only had to work an extra half hour. It was such a good day. And then all the rest of it, we were just talking about like, yeah, let's go get some more goldfish from the vending machine. Yeah, let's go do that.
Said, it seems as though the problem is that employers want to get the most from their employees at the lowest cost possible, while employees want to get the most from their employers with the least amount of work as possible. And that is...
I think that it's actually
that's how shit works.
True. I think that a lot of people go to work and they try to do their job. I don't have as
No, there's
much
not
of
nearly
a
as many people as you
pessimistic
think.
view on it. I think that there's people that do take pride in their job, but there is a minimum level of respect that a person has to receive in order to have that pride.
This is, of course, what brings us to today. All right, now in terms of why nearly 50% of the workforce has suddenly begun to quietly quit, it was found that first, the vast majority of people want the option to work from home. In fact, 1 in 4 pandemic homebuyers would choose to stay in their new home and find a new job if required to return to the office. On top of that, 10,000 employees surveyed said that they thought they were just as productive working from home. 30% said that they were more productive and engaged with their work and were saving an average of 40 minutes a day from commuting. Second, employees are looking for less work. With a labor shortage and a strong economy, employees now have the option to look for other work that could pay the same, if not more, with less responsibility.
Well, that's one of the good things about the internet, is the internet has decentralized the power that employers have. Because now people are able to do more things with their money, they're able to control it in different ways, they're able to make money on their own.
Responsibility, so they're taking it. Third, people are doing the bare minimum and quitting because they value career growth. It was found that 80% of those thinking about leaving a job are concerned about career growth, and nearly 75% say that the pandemic made them rethink their skill sets. I've covered this before, but it was found that workers who stay within the same company for more than 2 to 3 years get paid on average 50% less than the person who hops from job to job. That's because workers who switch jobs are able to negotiate better terms with higher pay, and that's where they're moving. And fifth, companies are flat out just getting more competitive. Employers in 2022 have begun to pay more, offer better conditions, and give more flexibility, meaning those who stay within the same company are often overlooked for the new person who's just hired. However, unfortunately, it doesn't quite end here, because even though employees have had the upper hand, not everyone looks at this favorably, and there are some downsides that need to be discussed.
No, there are, like, I mean, I've seen a lot of the wages that people have. Like, I'm seeing them paying like $15 an hour just to work at a fast food place nowadays.
Yeah, because they should have been a long time ago.
Or it was $12 like 6 months ago, and like a year ago it was $9. I feel like it's gone up a lot really fast. 15
yeah, and it's still behind.
It's a lot more than what it was.
Discussed. Although before we go on to that, if you're thinking
Still
about
way
quitting
behind
or
where it should
changing
be.
jobs, it's important to first make sure you have enough saved and invested to fall back on. That's where our sponsor, Public.com, wants to help, because
Are people not understanding that, but adjust for inflation? I mean, am I crazy to think that like maybe 2 years ago it was $10 and now it's
No,
like
2 years ago it was like 7.5.
I think that it's gone up a lot. It's gone up a fucking lot, man. 15 is nothing. I'm not saying... Nobody is saying that $15 is nothing. I'm just saying that it's gone up substantially from where it was. Like, I'm not saying that $15 is great and people should be happy with $15. I never fucking said that. I just said that, like, looking around, I went to Five Guys and they're offering $17, $18.
Good, they're still a couple bucks behind.
That's a crazy increase.
No, it's not. It's because they never
be better investors. For example, they already offer thousands of stocks and ETFs in over 30 different cryptos, and soon members will be able to.
They should have been there 10 fucking years ago at like $12 to $14 an hour, but they fucking weren't because they held back the wages for 20 plus fucking years because certain groups of people have been keeping the minimum wage from going up for fucking, what, 20, 30 years? Actually more than that. I think since like 1990. Now people are like, oh, it's too much too fast. And I'm like, no, you're fucking wrong. Believe in some bullshit sold to you by people who make 1,000 times more than you an hour for doing 1/10 of your fucking job.
Invest in alternative assets too. This means you'll be able to buy fractional shares of blue chip NFTs like CryptoPunks, game-worn Michael Jordan sneakers, and even an original Banksy painting. In addition to being an all-in-one platform, Public gives you the information that you need to make informed investment decisions. You can access advanced business data, unique company metrics, and expert analyst insights with Public's suite of premium features. For example, AMC has recently been mentioned a lot, and with Public Premium, I could see their quarterly theater attendance or their quarterly revenue by segments. I could also track net Netflix's yearly subscriber growth or the number of Tesla vehicles delivered last quarter. This makes it easy to invest with full context on public with data that's right at your fingertips. They've also partnered with Morningstar, one of the leading investment research firms, so that you can get access to the performance data that experts use and even see analyst sentiment on publicly traded companies in the same place that you answering emails after 5 p.m. Now, someone who's both been self-employed and worked for somebody else, I understand the appeal of being able to clock out and then be done for the day.
Dude, when I clock out, it's done.
What you want? Later. Hello, man. Spirits be with ya, man.
Peace be with you. Go in peace. What brings you here? Goddess watch over you.
What do you need, stranger? Roma, ec corta.
May the stars guide you. Asha Felam.
The winds guide you. May the eternal sun shine upon thee.
I am honored. Illume like your path.
Ishno del Diab.
Well, howdy there, Internet people. It's Bo again. So today we are going to talk about where the Republican Party is headed, the independent state legislature theory, how you're likely to hear it, and a word that you almost never hear Republicans say. Rusty Bowers is a Republican. He's been a Republican for like 30 years. I want to say he entered the Arizona State House maybe 93, something like that. Been around a long, long time. He is now the outgoing Republican Speaker of the State House in Arizona. And he said that the Republican Party and some of their legislation was attempting to take us back into the Dark Ages. There was a bill that in large part, you could say, was derailed because of him. He used some typical Republican obstruction techniques to stop it from going anywhere. And it was the bill that was designed to allow state legislatures to really be the people in charge of deciding where the electoral votes go. Now, when you say it like that, it doesn't really sound like horrible until you realize what that means is that, let's say, hypothetically, this doctrine is in effect in your state. And your state votes 70% in favor of candidate A. The state legislature can say, no, our electoral votes go to candidate B. And there's nothing you can do about it. It's derailing the idea of the republic. The constitutional republic, the representative democracy that the U.S. has, it's a way to completely destroy it. And it is being championed by the Republican Party. Now, you do have some people within the Republican Party fighting against it. And Bowers did fight against it successfully here. However, he has a pretty stark warning that basically says they can bring it back. And the next person may not spread it around the committees to slow it down. It may get through. And he says that if it finds itself, that kind of legislation finds itself on the desk of a Republican governor willing to sign it, he said, welcome to fascism. His words, a Republican of 30 years. It's real. This drive is real, and you're going to hear a lot about the independent state legislature theory in the future. I've talked about it in the past, and we will certainly end up talking about it in the future. There's nothing to actually suggest this is a valid theory under the Constitution. And we will get into why in future videos. But this is being pushed by a significant enough portion of the Republican Party for it to cause real concern, for it to be something that Republicans themselves are out there raising the alarm about. It's something the American people need to pay attention to and need to be ready for. Anyway, it's just a thought. Y'all have a good day.
Regard to the suspected activities involving the 48 migrants from Venezuela, that as we understand it at this point, the facts of the case at this point, are that on Wednesday, September 14th, here in Bexar County in the city of San Antonio, our understanding is that a Venezuelan migrant was paid what we would call a bird dog fee to recruit approximately 50 migrants from the area around a migrant resource center on San Pedro here in San Antonio. As we understand it, 48 migrants were lured, I will use the word lured, under false pretenses into staying at a hotel for a couple of days. They were taken by airplane. At a certain point, they were shuttled to an airplane where they were flown to Florida, and then eventually flown to Martha's Vineyard, again under false pretenses is the information that we have, that they were promised work, they were promised the solution to several of their problems. They were taken to Martha's Vineyard from what we can gather for little more than a photo op, video op, and then they were unceremoniously stranded in Martha's Vineyard. What infuriates me the most about this case is that here we have 48 people that are already on hard times, right? They are here legally in our country at that point. They have every right to be where they are. And I believe that they were preyed upon. Somebody came from out of state, preyed upon these people, lured them with promises of a better life, which is what they were absolutely looking for, and with the knowledge that they were going to cling to whatever hope they could be offered for a better life, to just be exploited and hoodwinked into making this trip to Florida and then onward to Martha's Vineyard for what I believe to be nothing more than political posturing to make a point. Well, look, we all know that during a political campaign, things can get nasty, things can get out of hand, but when you're playing with human lives of people that are already in a desperate situation, people that again, had every right to be where they were, but were lured under false pretenses, that does tend to bother me quite a bit. And so we are absolutely opening up an investigation into this. Since this past weekend, I've been talking to at least one non-governmental organization involved in the case, LULAC National. Also been talking to at least one attorney involved with representing these folks that are still up on the East Coast, as well as several members of the media, local and national. And all indications are that at this point we are going to be opening an investigation. It is way too early for me to start naming any suspects. We do have the names of some suspects involved that we believe are persons of interest in this case at this point, but I won't be parting with those names. I think to be fair, I think everybody on this call knows who those names are already, so I won't be naming any of them. But suffice it to say, we will be opening up a case.
Now look, I'm no lawyer, but I'd imagine that if I was Ron DeSantis, this is probably the point at which I'd find myself an attorney. This is Javier Salazar, the Bexar County Sheriff in San Antonio, Texas. And this case is emanating in Texas, given the fact that the migrants involved in this whole Martha's Vineyard stunt actually originated from Texas before DeSantis hired a private contractor to fly them first to Florida, which is where the migrants had wanted to relocate, before shuttling them back on another plane and ultimately dropping them off on a remote island with no housing, no jobs, and no essential services. I should note too, just as an aside, that the private vendor that DeSantis contracted to transport these migrants, Verital Systems Inc., was paid $615,000. That comes out to $12,300 per migrant. Now, I'm not sure if you've flown lately, but just so we're clear, flights from Florida to North Carolina do not generally cost $12,300 per person. In fact, you could probably travel from Florida to anywhere on the planet and still not come close to $12,300. I looked up the normal cost to fly from Miami to Martha's Vineyard, and you can find flights for less than $400 per person. That means that Florida taxpayers fronted the cost of these flights at 30 times the normal price. How's that for owning the libs, knowing that your taxpayer dollars down in Florida are going toward getting royally screwed on flight costs, also that Ron DeSantis could enjoy a groveling cable hit on Fox? Now, a number of immigration law experts have weighed in and suggested that Ron DeSantis may have actually trafficked those migrants given the circumstances under which they were transported. A number of those migrants have explained that they were told they were being flown to Boston, where they would have housing, essential services, and expedited work papers. But they weren't flown to Boston. There was no housing. There were no jobs. In fact, officials on the ground in Martha's Vineyard didn't even have advance notice of their arrival, meaning they had to scramble to find accommodations for 50 people on an island at a moment's notice. Tallahassee-based immigration attorney Elizabeth Ricci said, quote, "An enticement like that, regardless of whether you sign a waiver, is fraud, and that is part of the definition of human trafficking. I think that everybody on those planes has a case to legalize as a direct result of being transported by the governor." Another lawyer, Massachusetts-based Rachel Self, wrote in a statement, quote, "We believe they are victims of kidnapping. It may very well result that every individual who was induced on those planes by fraud becoming eligible for a U visa." In other words, if law enforcement also finds that these migrants were trafficked as the result of their lack of immigration status, then they would be eligible for a special kind of visa that protects victims of human trafficking. How's that for irony? Ron DeSantis wanted to wash his hands of migrants, and instead, he ends up under investigation, while those very migrants he trafficked are ultimately able to legalize and become citizens. Bravo, DeSantis. Bravo. Now, DeSantis' office has responded to news of the investigation being opened, with his communications director writing, quote, "Immigrants have been more than willing to leave Bexar County after being abandoned, homeless, and left to fend for themselves. Florida gave them an opportunity to seek greener pastures in a sanctuary jurisdiction that offered greater resources for them, as we expected. Unless the Massachusetts National Guard has abandoned these individuals, they have been provided accommodations, sustenance, clothing, and more options to succeed following their unfair enticement into the United States, unlike the 53 immigrants who died in a truck found abandoned in Bexar County this June." First of all, if you were wondering whether whataboutism is alive and well in the GOP, apparently it's okay to traffic human beings because, you see, back in June, migrants died in Texas in a completely unrelated event, and so that gives Ron DeSantis license to now traffic migrants through his own state. Obviously. Also, talk about gaslighting. In that statement, DeSantis' office literally says, quote, "Florida gave them an opportunity to seek greener pastures in a sanctuary jurisdiction that offered greater resources for them." I'm sorry, but what? DeSantis had them dropped off on an island with literally no resources. How is that a jurisdiction with greater resources? That they eventually got to Joint Base Cape Cod, where there was accommodations and food and essential services, wasn't thanks to Ron DeSantis, it was in spite of him. And so clearly, based not just on the stunt itself, but even this correspondence from DeSantis' office after it became clear how they abused these migrants, there's not only no remorse, but they're actually doubling down on this depravity. They're still positioning themselves as if somehow they helped these people by lying to them about where they were going, lying to them about what would be awaiting them, and lying to them about their long-term prospects there, all for a photo op and a few cable hits on Fox. Either DeSantis is so shameless that he doesn't mind the blatant hypocrisy,
or to register to vote.
Cheddarath Delaran. Yes. I believe so, yes. Yes. Those are better without even an offhand. Yeah, it is. Well, not raw stat wise. Yes. Keeps.
You need something? Have a good one.
Oh, my back. My achy breaky back.
Light be with you. Go with honor, friend.
Most boring quest on the planet.
We can't by statute overturn a higher law, which would be the Constitution. So why would your law, even if we were, or your change here, amendment, were to pass, why would that not be stricken down? Because obviously we have a constitutional amendment that is stronger authority.
Because you're not interpreting the Constitution correctly. That's not what the constitutional amendment means.
It's not what it means, it's exactly what it says.
That is not what, read it. It doesn't say anything about your female parts.
No, it does not say that, but it says that we do not have to suffer an unreasonable invasion of privacy. And if what's going on in my vagina is not an unreasonable invasion of privacy for this legislature to get involved in, I don't know what is. What if we start talking about what you gentlemen do, whether y'all have erectile problems, or whether you have had a vasectomy, or any of these other things? What if we pass legislation that you have to tell us this, and then the people or the doctors or whoever get to decide whether you're going to get to move forward with any type of intervention? Isn't that exactly what we're talking about?
Cinder, I think those are reasonable points for you to make. I disagree with you. I think it would have been great if you had actually
That
shown
guy.
up for work on Tuesday and made those points.
Wow, fuck you. You're a piece of shit and need fucking thrown out.
Let's watch it. Why 25% of workers
Oh,
just
here's this
quit
dumb
their
shit
job.
again.
Here we
Close
go.
that.
With regard to the suspect.
Our first guest tonight hosts the...
There's a class system in England. It's not, this is stuff, it's not important for you to know this, but I really can't go there and behave.
You did have a joke censored by, I guess your show airs on Sky over there.
Yeah, they,
and not really a
joke.
censorable joke.
It wasn't really a joke. It barely had the properties, but all we said was that Britain is still mourning the shocking loss, right, of a 96-year-old woman from natural causes. Literally not a joke. Right? Scientifically, that's not a joke. That's just a fact with a kind of dickish inflection. That's all it is. And yet they cut it out.
Wow.
Which is pretty. Because apparently all we've heard all week is the Queen had an incredible sense of humour. Like, just non-stop. Oh, she was so funny. Seth, she was so funny. The Queen, she's razor sharp. She dreamt of going to the Del Close Marathon.
Yeah.
Big comedy fan.
I will say I've watched a lot of anecdotes of people saying she was so funny, and then they tell a story, and when it ends, you're
yeah, all that clip. All that clip. It's like constant clip. Oh, here she was with Paddington. I'm watching a bear carry her comedically in that scene. She's giving that bear nothing back. There is one set of footprints in the sand, and it's a paw. But she was a huge comedy fan.
Huge comedy fan, and the State. She loved the State.
She just wanted to live to see Mulaney's tour. That was the thing that she didn't. Why is that the thing? Ask yourself why that was your line.
And then let us know. John Oliver, everybody! Last week tonight airs Sunday nights on HBO and streams on HBO Max. We'll be right back with Quinton Brunson.
6, 5, 4, 3, 2, acceleration. Our mission is clear. Houston, we have a problem. Hyperspace penetration now commencing. You will be terminated.
God damn it.
These midterm campaigns are in high gear. I think we'll be able to show you the scene in the crucial swing state of Ohio over the weekend. This was a rally for one of the Republican Party's key candidates. You see Jim Jordan talking. J.D. Vance was the star of this rally, the Wall Street investor and author, who spent years publicly warning the Republican Party about what he said was the danger of Trump, who he once likened to a potential fascist leader in America. Vance then recounted, he embraced Trump, he got his endorsement, then he got the nomination for the Senate race, and that may all sound familiar for today's Republican Party. What is different in this rally is how Vance, a Yale graduate, sat by as Donald Trump used the Ohio midterm rally to go quite a bit farther than he has before in his cultish alliance with this dangerous, sometimes amorphous group called QAnon, which has consolidated its power on the extreme far right by pushing lies that, frankly, might at times sound so bizarre and absurdist that you could underestimate how serious they are and what a following they're building. I'm not going to try to repeat, let alone amplify all of them, but among them is the claim that certain Hollywood actors and certain Democrats are actually some sort of secret pedophile group aligned with the actual Satan, or that they are also cannibals who eat children. It goes on like that. I'm not going to do much more of it for you tonight, but I'll tell you why this is the top story. What does all that have to do with, say, these midterm campaigns, other than maybe villainizing a few Democrats? Well, one of the theories is that Trump will lead this sort of cataclysmic battle against some of those forces. And by the way, there are many different versions and iterations of these conspiracy theories. It matters in many ways. You may recall right after Donald Trump was elected, a gunman opened fire in a Washington, D.C. restaurant under the deranged belief that that act would somehow help children allegedly enslaved there in a plot linked to Hillary Clinton. It was at times called Pizzagate. So this is national news now, starting this week. But you need the backstory I just gave you to understand, I think, the full danger of this story. The backstory is that the themes and emblems and sometimes secret references are an embrace of this political propaganda. And as I showed you, it ranges from bananas, if you hear about these ideas and these theories on, say, an internet comment thread, to profoundly dangerous when you see armed people walking the streets believing this stuff, acting on this stuff. Now, Trump used this new rally to directly embrace this. It was very clear, and it was clear to the Trump fans on site at the rally. And we could tell it was planned. For example, Trump and his aides used rally music that matched a QAnon theme song, as the New York Times reports, which then prompted the crowd to go into a bizarre gesture that you see here. You might not know what you were watching, or it might look like other terrible gestures throughout history, but this is the crowd raising single fingers in the air, citing the one in the QAnon song that was played by the former president at the rally. The New York Times continues in their report to say it was this rally that I'm telling you about is the first time in the memory of some Trump aides that they had such a display at the rally. They know all about QAnon, but it is now in the house. And these people that I just showed you with their hands up, they're in the loop. They're in sync with the propaganda and the hand gestures, the icons. And Trump told them their journey had only just begun.
My fellow citizens, this incredible journey we're on together has only just begun. And it is time to start talking about greatness for our country again.
Every hand you see hoisted as he addresses them is a person who either knows exactly what they're referencing or is joining the crowd. And the crowd, the groupthink, the mob mentality, the herd, that is all a part of this. Now, as I give you this news, our top story tonight, if you or someone watching is a skeptic, you might say, these developments sound like things that may not completely involve Trump. An aide could pick music. Crowds will do what crowds do. A skeptic might say, well, it's not like Trump is out here wearing a QAnon pin and directly personally engaging the conspiracy theories. That's what a skeptic might say. But he is. You can see Trump literally wearing a QAnon pin With those words on the bottom of the screen, the storm is coming here on a recent Donald Trump post, which you might not see if you're not on Trump's social media platform. The AP has summed up Donald Trump's recent activities and actions here with the headline that Trump is openly embracing and amplifying QAnon conspiracy theories. The examples are piling up. There's the more personal visual embrace after Trump posted this other barrage of QAnon-related material just last month. Now, let me tell you, there are plenty of recent Trump posts and statements and rallies that we do not choose to report on, that we do not find newsworthy. And if you don't want to know what they were up to in Ohio, this is a free country. If you're watching in America, you could tune out. But to be informed heading into these midterms, it is worth knowing what the choices are. And this is not just some story about Donald Trump. It does involve him. But right now on the ballot, it's a story about the mainlining of weaponized lies and hate in the Republican Party and the government of the United States by people who know better, like J.D. Vance, who's on the ballot in these midterms. And it's proven that he knows better because he told us he knew better when he wrote a whole book warning against exactly this. He wrote at times eloquently about the dangers not only of Donald Trump as a person and a symptom, but he warned about the wider problems of how hate and hard times and poverty can create a brew where people are focused on falsehoods and blame because of the pain they may actually really feel in their lives. Tonight, here's the bad news. This level of lying and propaganda is associated with attacks on democracy and the rise of authoritarian movements. Here's the good news. Those kind of movements usually need lies because when the truth is out, they're widely opposed. Most people do not want to live under repressive regimes or have to put up with movements that are based on ending democracy or having some MAGA big government system make choices for you, for the rest of us, while lying to you with some made-up, ridiculous bananas, but at times dangerous stories about the phantom pedophile enemies, stories designed to scare you into submission so you have less freedom and less liberty and a far worse life. When most people see that truth, separate from a lot of other political divisions we still have, the vast majority of people do not choose to live under those kind of people and systems. The truth still matters, but it must be reported and defended.
A senior U.S. military official says that tanks are, quote, absolutely on the table to provide to Ukraine in the future, but the official adds they're not currently an option because of issues with training and maintenance. Ukraine has requested tanks, fighter jets, and long-range missiles from allies. They say their current tanks and weapons aren't enough to keep up their momentum against Russian troops in the eastern and southern parts of the country there. Joining us now, we have retired Brigadier General Steve Anderson. He's just back, actually, from a meeting in Warsaw with the Ukrainians about their military effort. General, thank you so much for being with us. As we just heard there, you have this U.S. official saying that tanks are on the table, obviously not now, maybe later. You're a former tank platoon leader. How effective could U.S. tanks be compared to what Ukraine has at this point?
Well, thank you, Brianna. I don't want to overstate the significance of having M1 tanks in Ukraine. When you look at
BRB,